So one of the things that I've wrestled with in my own following of Jesus and in my own trying to understand God and learn theology and study the scriptures is this, I don't want to call it a tension, but there's sometimes what seems like a tension between grace, the fact that God saves us apart from any righteous things that we do, but because of his own mercy and grace, that he favors us in a way that is undeserved, that we never deserve. Grace. And also the call to obedience, to change, to grow. The demand to change and to grow. How do you put these two things together? Is it that grace is true up to a certain point and then all of a sudden we have to start earning our way? Well, no, that's not going to work. That's not what the Bible teaches. Paul believes in grace from start to finish. So how do we make sense of these two things? And there's been a couple of thoughts that I think are helpful that I want to share on this, just to keep us thinking about these things, not as any kind of final word. And one is the basic fact that when you love someone or something, you want the best for it. When you love a person, you're going to do everything you can to help them experience the best that they can. If you're not doing that, then that's actually like not really love. It's kind of a definition of love is to will and work for the good of another, even at cost to myself. So to love something is to want to put it back together again. And for God to love us in our broken state means that he wants certain things for us. He wants us not just to stay broken, but to be put back together again. So the call to obedience is a manifestation of God's love. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the first thing. The second thing I think it's important to remember is, and this is a paraphrase of a statement by Dallas Willard, a man who's written a lot of wonderful books about following Jesus and the nature of the gospel. And what he says is that grace is opposed to earning, not effort. Grace is opposed to earning, think about this, not effort. Grace means we can't ever earn it. Like if I fall down in a pit because I tried to hurt somebody and I swung and missed and I end up on the ground, there's nothing I can do to earn their favor. There's nothing I can do to earn their help. But if they reach down to help me, even though I tried to hurt them and I got myself into trouble, if they reach down to help me, then at that point the relationship is established. They're gracious. And there's never a point at which I can repay them or anything like that. That's not how it works. They've clearly made it clear. I don't have to act a certain way to get their help. They're going to help me even if I don't deserve it. So earning is out. It's just never a part of the dynamic. But grace is not opposed to effort. Matter of fact, grace energizes effort. We must exert effort. We must obey. And we're called to and commanded to obey because this is part of how God teaches us. This is part of how he grows us up. I think especially about Titus chapter 2, where Paul says that the grace of God has appeared. And this grace teaches us to say no to ungodliness and to worldly passions and to live upright, self-controlled, and godly lives as we await Jesus' return. Grace is something that doesn't just pick us up, but grace, God's presence with us even though we don't deserve it, is actually something that moves us along. A last example, it would be like if you adopted a child who was raised in maybe a rougher context than your home, and you adopt them, not because they were good enough. That just wasn't a part of the equation. You adopt them because you want to show love to them, bring them into your family. Now, this let's say it's a boy. This boy is your son. Or if it's a girl, this girl is your daughter. They're your child. They don't have to earn that status. They have it. You've given it to them, and it's not going away. But when they come into your home, you start to teach them, okay, here's how we do things. Here's how we treat each other. Here's what we say whenever we're mad. Here's what we do with our hands and what we don't do with our hands whenever we have a problem. And you're commanding them and you're demanding of them and you're making them change the way they live, not because they have to do this for you to let them stay in your home, for you to continue to consider them a son or daughter, but because this just is now who they are. And they get to become a more whole person because of your love and because of your grace and because of your presence in their lives. That's how it works with the gospel. And that's why there's not really a tension between grace and the call to obedience. It's more of a partnership. That's what Scripture teaches. That's what God desires. And that's where we find the most joy, the most growth, and the most wholeness.